Last year around April, I finally decided to build my first gaming PC. This was probably the most significant purchase I'd made up to that point in my life, not only because of the hefty price, but because it was something that I had dreamed of owning since probably the age of 8 or 9. After convincing myself it was time to finally pull the trigger, I immediately started researching all the necessary components needed, tutorials, guides, really anything that could have helped me along. I was getting my foot in the door a little, but I was still a little worried about possibly purchasing incompatible parts or somehow frying an expensive part that would have put me back not only money but time and energy. Sites like PC Part Picker were great in showing compatible parts as well as sites with the cheapest prices for set parts, but it still didn't give me that hands-on experience that I was looking for. That's when I discovered PC Building Simulator. I was still a little anxious about buying parts, so I decided to buy the game on a sale to see if it would teach me anything I didn't already know. Since then, I've sunk an unhealthy amount of time into the game, and in this video I will share my experience with not only the educational aspects, but also the career mode, along with the tutorial and IT expansion. Speaking in digital terms, simulators originally gained popularity for their ability to educate newcomers in specific fields of work or life in general. This would avoid risks caused by real-life training. One of the earlier widely used simulators was in the 1970s with its driver's ed experience, which would put you behind the wheel along with a class of students. Everyone would be in their own driver's seat while watching a projector that would show actual situations that would need quick reaction times to avoid. Now, I don't know for sure, but I would assume these reaction times and actions would be recorded, therefore giving a grade or score for each specific student. Although other earlier, more archaic simulators existed before this one, that one stood out to me because it seemed pretty advanced for the 70s. 50 years later, we have an abundance of these simulator games, varying widely in value from Microsoft Flight Simulator down to seemingly ridiculous games such as Thief Simulator or to some PC Building Simulator. But the reviews are actually arguing that people are buying and greatly enjoying these games. The recent release of Power Wash Simulator again proved these games can be entertaining and earn large amounts of money without being a huge AAA release. The quality of these games will greatly vary, but I can almost guarantee that there's a simulator out there for everyone. If you think about it, most video games are simulation games. Look at the top 5 best-selling games of all time. Some would argue that 4 of those 5 are simulation games because you are in the shoes of a character and doing a task. Now, the simulation game that I'm talking about in this video typically have the word simulator in them, and instead of an engaging story, they provide many jobs to complete for money or XP. Anyway, let's talk about the actual game itself. In PC Building Sim, there are 5 modes. Career mode, where you complete jobs in your repair shop. Free build, where you have an unlimited budget to build any computer you want. How to build a PC, which is really just a tutorial for the main game. The IT expansion, where you pose as an IT guy to complete repairs and upgrades for staff members. And the esports DLC, which I haven't played yet, but from what I hear is similar to the IT mode, but you are based on the time you complete repairs for the esports members. Each of these modes offer different experiences, but they all revolve around the same basic mechanics of working on computers. I'll start with the how to build a PC portion, as it's really just a short tutorial. You are thrown into this weird void with a monitor and an empty case in front of you. You go through the steps of removing panels and installing different parts of the PC. It's pretty informative because you can focus on certain parts of the components and little drop-down menus will explain the purpose of that certain area. It's pretty basic, but it gets the job done, while also teaching people who don't know much about computers. Most of my playtime is in the main career mode, which is where I believe the developers wanted you to spend the most time. You work at your Uncle Tim's PC repair shop titled Tim's Red Hot Repairs. Each computer sent to you has a message attached that states whether the computer has either a problem needed to be solved or desired upgrade. Another job you will receive will be building a whole rig that fits the customer's wants. Although there are only 3 main missions you receive, they all go into great detail and the game does a great job mixing and matching them together. The game also has hidden objectives that aren't outright told to you from the start, but can be implied with the message given with the job. You start small with missions that outline the issues straight on, such as a broken stick of RAM that needs to be switched out. The game gets progressively harder as you receive more requests daily, with each of those requests having multiple problems that you'll have to diagnose individually, either by testing or taking the components out to check each of them one by one. The mission system seems overwhelming at first as requests start piling up quickly, but once you get into the flow, it's actually pretty addictive. It is hard to describe the mechanics themselves as you kinda have to try to figure it out, but I'll try anyways. You can focus on one computer at a time where you can remove cables and actual components of the PC. At first this is tedious since every screw and cable must be undone one by one, but upgrades down the line can help speed things up. You start with repairing pretty old and outdated technology, but as you progress each level you unlock better and better components such as 30 series cards and even water cooling parts. The main goal in my eyes is to own 100% of the repair shop. You purchase the company incrementally with each purchase getting more and more expensive. Every time you buy a portion of the company, the subsequent missions will pay out more. Monthly bills in this game exist as well, so be ready to spend money on rent and utilities. You can go into a lot of debt in this game, but I would be careful because I think you can soft lock your game, because at a certain point you just can't afford any parts to complete the jobs. I'm sure there is some way to get around it, but I would just recommend staying in the green. I've experienced some bugs here and there, such as messages not leaving my screen unless I restart the game, but overall the career mode is great for sitting back and relaxing once you get into a groove. The IT expansion pack is now free for everyone, which is nice because like anything free is nice. Overall, the DLC did add some stuff, but not enough that I would pay for it, so I'm glad it's free now. With this new DLC, you're working at a company as an IT person. You now have access to a tablet, which is just a portable desktop computer. You also have a new app which you can accept and manage jobs from. Printers are now an object which you might have to fix, and on top of that, you can now travel to other locations for jobs to complete. And that's pretty much it. It's not bad, and since it's free I can't really complain, but it doesn't add anything revolutionary to the mix. If you want more of the career mode, then you will enjoy the IT mode, but don't worry if you miss out on it, it's not necessary. Free build is pretty self-explanatory. You have unlimited access to parts, desks, and upgrades. This is great for anyone who is planning on building their own computer, as it can show what parts work together and more importantly if they look good together. This mode also allows players to experiment with custom water cooling, which does not show itself in the career mode until way down the line where people might not get to, so it's pretty nice. I enjoy building crazy overpowered computers and experimenting with the overclocking features to see how much power I can drain from them. There's just something about screwing around with hardware that you know you can't afford that just makes it fun. The environment you are working in is pretty basic, but it does provide some upgrades such as a closet to store PCs and extra workbenches. Other environments are available through DLC which look pretty cool, but I've never really been willing to fork out the money. There are a few gaming company themed ones and they look pretty cool, but they're not that expensive, so if you want to go for it, go for it. Simulator games are kind of a hit or miss. If you are interested in the topic, you could probably sink hundreds of hours into that game. This is really clear with games like American Truck Simulator. This just happened to be the game I really clicked with, not only because of the engaging gameplay, but also because I have a genuine interest in building computers. Going back to the reason I bought the game, did I find any value or information that would help me build my first computer? And my answer would probably be yes. I did learn a lot about compatible parts as well as the sizing of parts like the cases and motherboards. I realize now this game isn't supposed to be a guide on how to buy and build a PC, but I did find value in being able to move parts in and out and testing out features such as overclocking and water cooling. I went in looking for a guide, but I actually just found a really enjoyable game. The only reason I wouldn't buy it now is because PC Building Simulator 2 is just around the corner, and it's just going to be an improved version of this game, so you might as well just wait. Anyway, thanks for watching and sticking to the end. Feel free to like, subscribe, or even comment.